Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. And when we woke up this morning, probably someone felt some pain, some bloating, some muscle aches. And when you keep having this kind of perception, you think that it is normality, but it is not. It's not true. Because these are symptoms. They are like safety valves of a sort of pressure cooker which is connected with our health. They are whistling valves. And if we close one of these valves, another one probably will open in a very short time. We don't know exactly when, because you can close the valve and you can wait for a few seconds, for 6 days, or for 2 years. But at the end, the pressure inside the pressure cooker keeps building up, and a new valve opens and blows and whistles, or even bursts in a certain time. So we shouldn't close the valves which are symptoms of our health. We have to turn down the heat or the flame in order to reduce the pressure inside. And everyone has had in his or her own life the perception, the experience of inflammation. And do you know, for example, which one the #1 selling drug all over the world? Anti-inflammatory drug. So it means that everyone absolutely has the knowledge of what inflammation is. And this is a sign of... thank you. and modern immunology finds really almost every month new biomarkers of inflammation. And we should look into the biomarker, because every cytokine has different effects. For example, BAF and PAF, so to speak, they are the two most used now in our clinic, and determine, for example, insulin resistance, so interfere and determine diabetes and obesity. And they can change the metabolism. Inflammatory biomarkers can also interfere and change the mood. Definitely now we know that sadness or happiness or depression is not only psychological, it's also a physical question. And they work like network messengers. They are a sort of communication protocol, a sort of biological communication protocol, which receives information from the outside, from the environment, in order to adapt in the best way to the external conditions. And they work well. And speaking, for example, about nutrition, we know that every newborn is absolutely allergic and intolerant to everything. And the first reactions of the newborn when he or she meets the food are due to the innate immunity, a sort of danger signal, a sort of warning light about possible food issues. Therefore, when the newborn goes ahead, and he starts using antibodies, usually IgG antibodies. And what do we do when you are in a new place? Usually, you start taking, you want to communicate to others where you are and what is the place like. So you start taking pictures of the place and send them via internet to your friends in order to share the knowledge. And it's exactly the same our body does, because we take a picture of with our immune system, the picture of different spots of the food in order to define the immune structure of the food. And you keep them in memory, in your immune memory, And during your life, for example, if you eat the same food for a long time, or if you eat the same food over and over again, your immune system starts again, your antibodies react again, that give you a signal. You have gone really over the limit. And we tend to see these kind of conditions like diseases. They are, indeed, strong warning messages. Think of BAF, for example. BAF is able to induce insulin resistance, to determine diabetes and obesity, because it is a danger signal. And we learned in the last million of years to save energy, to store fats in the wrong place, usually. And bloating, for example. Bloating is one of the most common conditions all over the world. And bloating is due to the inflammation of the bowels, due to inflammatory biomarkers. And we can treat it in a very simple way, changing our nutritional habits. And we can think of aging, for example. With the nutrition, we can reduce inflammation. The correct nutrition, the personal profiled nutrition, we can reduce the production of reactive oxygen species, free radicals. We can absolutely reduce the speed of aging. I do the same. And as a matter of fact, I am 96. No, I'm joking. I am 58. But yes, okay. It's useful, the same. And now I would like you think to, what do you do at home when you have a carpet which is burning? Usually, what do you pour on the carpet? Water. And it's exactly the same the body does when it is inflamed. When we are inflamed, our body pours water into the joints, pours water into the muscles, and so we have swollen joints, we have muscle ache, we have stiffness, and someone calls it rheumatoid arthritis. And we treat, in our clinic, we treat rheumatoid arthritis also with this kind of approach, a nutritional approach, in order to reduce specific inflammatory biomarkers. And what about watery ankle and puffy fingers too? One of the most spread conditions, the most common condition, not only for women in summer, we know. And someone calls it essential lymphoedema. Yes, and sometimes we don't know, but in the vast majority of cases, we can change absolutely our nutrition. We can define personal profile for nutrition, and obtain thin ankle again. And I think this is one of the message everyone should learn by heart in order to understand that we should have and maintain a good and positive relationship with food. Food is really plays the most important character in the comedy of life. And food is the first source of hidden inflammation. But now what we can do is to measure. Now we can measure the level of inflammation. And the good news is that food is also the primary tool in order to get well-being. Do you know, the vast majority of Europeans, for example, have food-related inflammation connected with yeast and fermented foods, and with dairy products, and with wheat, gluten, for example. The Japanese, instead, have reaction to soy and rice. The 80% of Afro-American, of Afro-Caribbean, have reaction, and they can't eat lactose for their intolerance. And now gluten sensitivity is one of the major food issues all over the world for many, really for many people. We have the possibility to define our personal profile. Starting from our personal profile, and everyone has his or her own profile, we can decide exactly how to eat. We can decide from the scientific point of view which kind of food we have to choose. And food is really a good friend. It's really a good friend. And we can choose the right food in order to have the reins of our lives again in our hands. It's self-empowerment. It's self-confidence. This is for life, I think. And now, this could be the first day of a new scientific life. We can use a growing set of innovative tools useful for our health. We can start from the IgG detection. I told you before that we use antibodies like pictures of the different spots of a food. And we can define exactly the structure, the immune structure of the food. And now when we know that we have to look into the food from the evolutionary point of view. It's really important. We look into the food knowing that if you have a high level of IgG, it's not because you have an enemy. Because we have an IgG when you had a previous immune contact. So we don't know exactly if you had allergy or friendship. But as doctors, we can suggest you to have a right diet in order to develop again, like a sort of adult new weaning process, your good relationship with food. And we can measure, so many tests, for example, define IgG against food. Food is our friend, is not an enemy. I think we have enough enemies in our life, and it's not necessary to get others. But what is important is to measure the biomarkers of inflammation. We can measure BAFF and PAFF in order to have the strength of the relationship with food. Because if you have a low level of BAFF, for example, we should ask people to have only, for example, 2 days of diet to stick during the week. If you have strong inflammation, if you have a high level of inflammation, you can absolutely have to have a more strict diet. And knowing these new biomarkers, we can meet and use and find new supplements, new drugs, new vegetal components. Now we have already on the market some of them, turmeric root, for example, perilla oil, and resveratrol, inositol. They are all substances useful in order to reduce inflammation and to improve our health. But what is important is that we can absolutely find new drugs, new supplements, new vegetal components in order to have a better health. And I would like to tell you shortly this really intriguing story. I presented this case is a 7-year-old girl suffering from severe keratitis. And you can see here now how she sees now. These were the previous way of seeing, of looking around. And she had severe keratitis, and I presented in Rome last June this case at an international congress of ophthalmology. And the case is very well studied because the same girl had been presented 2 years before at another ophthalmology international congress, EUCornea 2010 in Venice, for suggestion. And the only suggestion my colleagues were able to give was to close the valves of the symptoms, to use cortisone drops in the eyes. So when she came to us, because the quality of life was really bad, she had to put the drops in the eyes every 2 hours, disrupting the sleeping rhythms. And she had to patch the eyes so frequently. She had to wear eyeglasses, sunglasses, even at home. So bad quality of life. And when she came to us, we measured the BAFF and PAFF, and we found that the values were really high. The IgG for food were so high against yeast and fermented foods and nickel-related products. And when she started doing a new diet and taking perilla oil, soft gels, she had full recovery after 2 months, only 2 months of treatment. Now after 2 years, she stays absolutely well. And this is an old word. We have erythrocyte sedimentation rate and C-reactive protein. I think that who is asking, the general practitioner who look into inflammation ask almost only for these two biomarkers. We should look really beyond. We should look far for new innovative perspective, and we should widen our point of view, and not only in one direction. We should have a view all around at 360 degrees, because we have a lot of new biomarkers, inflammation biomarkers. I show in the picture some of the most recently discovered. They are a sort of bunch of useful biomarkers. But we need to know that every cytokine, every inflammatory biomarker is one message. They are like as words. They are words of a language. And you should understand that we need to use this language. We can change and we can give to the body other messages with nutrition, with viruses. Here is one left, yes. And we can give messages. We can speak to the body in a different way. We have to improve the knowledge of these biomarkers, because we have to stay like in a cockpit, using all the different instruments to take the wings and fly into the future. And we are really on the verge of a new evolution, I could say a revolution. And we can use new languages. We can have new messages to the body. And really, we can have new relationships with the drug, with supplements. We can find a lot of new things. And really, the way we look at things is changing. Now we can adopt these new and innovative tools, these scientific instruments, to get a new health, a better health, and our well-being. Thank you.